Hey chums, I'm Optimistic Duelist and this is Homestuck Explained. On today's episode, I don't actually have a mechanic to discuss. Rather, I'm going to talk about the idea brought into fruition when the player makes their first Cruxite artifact. Now, let's talk about that apple we left off on in part 1. The reason we think of the apple as the default fruit is largely because we all know the story of the Book of Genesis. It's the most pervasive and influential creation myth in the Western world, a common starting point for Christianity, Judaism, and Islam with only minor deviations between the stories. That the story has spread so far means that it is a common set of ideas that we are all at least aware of, even if we don't agree with them. I'm not going to go over the entire story here, just the 2 parts relevant to the concepts I've already been presenting. Let me tell you a story. In the beginning, there was nothing except for the Word, God. The Word was God, and the Word was with God, and there was nothing in the world that existed except through God's will. God said, "Let there be light," and then there was light. That is to say, He first had a thought about reality, and then spoke that thought, creating it in the material world. From here, we can skip ahead a bit. God creates the world over the course of 7 days, culminating in the creation of Adam and Eve, who He creates in His own image. Adam and Eve are pure and allowed to eat from any of the fruit that exists in the Garden of Eden, with one exception: the forbidden fruit that holds the knowledge of good and evil, which in our culture is most commonly depicted as an apple. Essentially, God gives them an idea about the tree, that they should not go near it, that eating from its fruits is a bad idea. And crucially, when Adam and Eve do inevitably fail Him, they do not do it by themselves. They are talked into eating the fruit by Satan, which is to say they are given the idea to transgress God's boundary just as they are given the idea to obey it, rather than coming up with either one themselves. At this point in the story, neither Adam or Eve actually think to do anything. They only take action when influenced by the words of other beings. Their consumption of the apple, however, can be seen as an attempt to understand reality. Adam and Eve are presented with 2 opposing viewpoints, and they decide to eat it at least partly simply for the benefit of finding out which viewpoint is the truth. In effect, their desire for wisdom caused their fall from grace, hence why the apple is specifically named as the fruit of knowledge of good and evil. For this betrayal, God casts them out of Eden, but not before saying something very strange. God points out that Adam and Eve have become like Him, having eaten from the fruit of knowledge. But hold on a minute, what gives? Didn't God make Adam and Eve in His own image in the first place? Weren't they already like Him? What does it mean exactly to be as unto God? Well, what changes for Adam and Eve once they eat the fruit? They notice they are naked and choose to cover themselves with leaves. That is to say, they develop an idea about the nature of their material reality and then act upon the world to change it according to their desires. By consuming the fruit of the tree of knowledge, Adam and Eve gain access to Plato's perfect world, the imaginary plane of ideas. In doing so, they gain the power to have visions for the world, and so the power to act upon it in order to reshape it. Their only limitation is that they aren't given this knowledge, and so they are not aware of what they're doing. But theoretically, Adam and Eve now possess the ability to create. They have become as unto God. Homestuck makes this more literal. The artifacts each player creates to enter the game session are all edible or containers for edible goods. John gets the classic apple, Rose gets a bottle she must smash to get to the liquid within, Dave gets an egg he has to wait to hatch, and Jade gets a piñata she has to shoot open. Consider that the comic mimics not only the eating of the fruit, but also the casting out from Eden. Each character is cast into the game from their homes. Granted, home life wasn't exactly a paradise for many of them, but their functional situations were the same as Adam and Eve's. They were children. Which is to say, they had the room to be ignorant about the world because their world was not shaped by the ideas they kept inside their heads, but rather by another entity that took care of all the outside stuff. Once the players use their Cruxite artifacts, however, they are launched into positions of responsibility, and then have to create their worlds for themselves. Because it's couched in advanced technology and game mechanic logic, it's easy for us to take it for granted. But the fact is that by the end of the tutorial, each player is, like God, able to conceptualize their ideas about the world and then manifest them physically, and they don't even know it. Regardless, this act of disobeying God is regarded as humanity's original sin, and it causes all of our mortal human suffering. This is the most common version of the story, so naturally it's going to color how we think about the kids as they go through their adventures, as selfish, petty, and flawed people. But, that's only one version of the Christian creation myth. Creation stories, by their nature, invite many different viewpoints that lead to debate. With modern Christianity, most of that debate has solidified, resulting in a set of ideas about the Bible and what it is trying to say that we accept as true. But that wasn't always the case. Many alternative takes on Christian ideas and myths are loosely collected under the umbrella of Gnosticism. You can think of Gnosticism as a complex cultural and artistic movement that spanned millennia, just like Christianity. Sort of like the artsy fandom version of the Bible, with lots of different fanfic versions of the same sequences of events. It's the most common Gnostic creation myth that we will contrast against Genesis here. In the beginning, there was nothing except for the true God. Its name is inconsistent. In the Gnostic myths, it has many names, so many we can't really regard a single one as canonical. But one name is notable for how relatively modern it is, and because it's the name I'll be using for the entirety of this video series. That is Abraxas, an entity psychiatrist Carl Jung described in his 1916 Gnostic treatise as the supreme being that transcends both God and the devil and combines all opposites into one being. Abraxas was not originally a name for this god as far as I can tell, but it is worthwhile to note that Abraxas is considered a possible root for the magic incantation Abracadabra, a general purpose sort of spell that can pretty much do anything depending on the story it's used in, and by some accounts translates to the words "I create as I speak." In keeping with the concept of universal duality, Abraxas creates a series of beings known as aeons that are bonded in complementary pairs, and meant to create together in harmony. Like Abraxas, these aeons are immaterial and exist only in the plane of ideas. Together, these entities make up the pleroma, also known as the region of light. Physical creation begins with a mistake. Sophia, the Aeon of Wisdom, wishes to know what is unknowable, and ends up creating a being without her partner Aeon. This creates a being known as Yaldabaoth, who is described as blind as he is unable to perceive the realm of ideas that created him. This god looks around and sees nothing in the world but himself, and decides this means he must be God, and sets about creating the material world. Yaldabaoth is an evil god, and so the material world is full of pain and suffering. He's noted to create 7 heavens in the sky, and the physical forms of animals and humans. However, all of these 7 heavens were said to be below the realm of ideas, in darkness, since remember, the aeons are described as being the source of light. Sophia, either cast out from the region of light for her transgression, or more commonly, feeling regretful for her accidental creation, imbues light in its residence, granting us the potential to escape the cruel confines of the material realm by seeking enlightenment. In case you're beginning to wonder what this has to do with Homestuck, I should mention that Abraxas and Yaldabaoth are both NPCs generated by Sburb, and the concept of wisdom, understanding, and literal light are interwoven and represented under the aspect of light. We'll discuss all of these subjects later, but for now I just wanted to make it crystal clear that there is a consistent set of ideas Homestuck is conveying in its design, and these ideas significantly affect the execution of pretty much every part of the story. So why does it matter? The myths are mechanically similar. Adam and Eve eating the apple allows them to perceive ideas. By descending from the realm of ideas and infusing mortals with her light, Sophia gives us the same thing. What's different is the scales of morality are tipped. In Genesis, God is the definitive arbiter of good and evil, and humans are sinful because they have failed him. Or at least, that's the common understanding of the story. The Gnostic story paints humanity as noble victims, unjustly subjected to the suffering of physical existence, but also that humans can render that existence holy by filling it with light, ideas. In that context, is self-expression really just indulgence? How valuable is creating a new universe if there are no ideas contained within it? Doesn't it follow that material reality is made better the more ideas are expressed within its confines? If that's true, then isn't what the kids are using this alchemy system to do self-stylize and express themselves, even as they strive against their worldly circumstances, not just morally okay, but in fact divine? If forcing ideas into reality is a rebellion against the physical reality that tells us we must suffer and die, that we are petty and basic and evil, and that our existence is one of pain, then couldn't we even call the act courageous, righteous, maybe even heroic? I think I have my answer, but I'd be really curious to know what you think about it. In the near future, we'll have a short episode on the Incipisphere, the main game space where the bulk of Sburb generally plays out before opening up the next round of video votes. If you like what I'm doing here and you want to see more of it, feel free to support me on Patreon. Doing so seriously helps me out and gets you access to cool perks, including access to the Discord server where the concepts for these videos are threaded together from the hairs of 10,000 gay wizard beards. You can also find me on the official R-Hive Swap Reddit and Discord. See you again soon, everyone. Keep rising.